This is a Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 429.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. We have the technology. The technology.
Why, hello everybody, this is Adam Serve, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. Actually, almost missed this one. This is WordCamp Irun. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but I believe it is in Spain. Yes, it is in Spain, and it is on May 21st and 22nd. So that's pretty cool. And it looks like is it in person? I believe so. It's in Spanish. I'm trying to translate it here. Oh, Spanish. Translate. Google Translate. Fantastic. Let's go to English. Yes. Yes, it's in person. So there you go. Should be pretty cool. Spain. I don't know where that is in Spain. I'll have to check that on a map later. Anyway, that's the upcoming events for the week that I can see and share with you right now. That's pretty cool. All right, moving on. Segment 1 in the news. A whole bunch of things to talk about here in the news. Starting with WPSiteSync is no longer being updated. So that is a tool that was put out by my friends over at ServerPress, who are the makers of Desktop Server. It was a way to sync posts and pages and content and stuff. It was really cool. It's just that they have decided to no longer update it. It's going to be, it's all, what was the announcement on the top of the site? It said, and I quote, "Thanks for visiting the site. After many years of consideration discussion, we've concluded that we're no longer going to be updating it." So anyway, short version of this is all the premium extensions are for free now over at GitHub. So if you're still using WPSiteSync, you can go ahead and grab that off of GitHub and fork it and do what you want with it, etc. But it's no longer being supported. They are putting all their energies back over into Desktop Server. So there's that in the news. Also in the news, WordPress 6.0 release candidate 2 is out for testing. We're getting close to that being launched. We're about 10 days away as of this recording of this being launched into the wild. So check that out as well. Two more things here regarding WordPress Market Share. So two articles were put out. One was by Joost van de Valk, actually, saying how WordPress Market Share actually shrunk for the first time in many years. It's down from 43% to 42.9%. And it's a long post and a lot of discussion about it. And on the flip side of that, another article came out indicating that, and this was written by Alex Denning, it said that the 0.4 drop doesn't really matter. So in regards, kind of like a debatable issue here. So I'll put a link in both those articles in the show notes. Both really interesting takes on things. And I'm leaning towards, yeah, okay, things grow and shrink, and nothing's changing in my world at the moment. So something to kind of keep in mind. All this information is out there. It's all open source. Obviously, it's content. But check it out if you're interested in knowing what's going on in the space in that capacity as far as growth. I'll link to both those articles in the show notes. So there you go. What else in the news? I think that's it in the news. Yeah, that's it. All right, moving on. Segment 2, the meat potatoes of this week's episode. This week, I want to touch on the ideation. On the idea of ideation and funding. So let's say, I don't know, you have a new idea, and in your core of your body, of your soul, it could be really a big deal and make a major dent in your overall business and your life, financially, in every which way. And you've mentioned this idea to a few trusted people, and they're excited too, actually. And one of those people have actually indicated they would actually invest in this idea. One person said that they would invest their own money. One person said maybe that you could gather a group of like-minded individuals and get some funding for it. So investors and bootstrapping. So what do you do? So first, some definitions. Bootstrapping versus venture capital. Okay. In this case, in context, I consider bootstrapping, my definition is another word for self-funding. I'm going to pay for all the aspects of starting a business myself. LLC, hardware, software, tools, I'm going to pay for it out of pocket. That's bootstrapping, right? So you can do it yourself. Whereas venture capital, Wikipedia defines it as, and I quote, a form of private equity financing that's provided by venture capital firms or funds to startups, early stages, and emerging companies that have been deemed to have high growth potential or who have demonstrated high growth. Okay. what do you do here? So let's say you have this idea. It's hot. You have interest in people interested in working with you on it and growing it. So I'm going to discuss right now the pros and cons of both bootstrapping versus venture capital, or having investors, if you will. So a few benefits of bootstrapping. Number one, freedom. Okay. Main advantage is that you don't dilute any ownership of your own company. Even if you have a partner, let's say you bring on a partner, it's just the two of you, or maybe even three of you, CEO, CTO, CIO kind of thing. Very common, right? Well, there's three of you, but if you have investors, you lose that third percentage right off the bat. All three of you are going to get less than 30%, technically speaking, right? So the freedom is that you actually get to own more of your own company. Number two on a benefit here is, as a bootstrapping company, you get to focus on the product and the customers, because you can spend 100% of your time on creating that product or that service that the customer loves, and then growing the business itself. Whereas venture capital backed startups, they often, those founders spend their time, they split their time really working between the business and impressing and updating and negotiating with the investors, because there's that relationship that has to be maintained. Okay, so those are the two main benefits of bootstrapping over not bootstrapping. Okay, drawbacks of bootstrapping. This is important here. Drawbacks are, I have three of them that I want to share with you. There's a lot out there. I mean, I just narrowed these down to what I deemed relevant here for my own little interest story. Number one, little money to reinvest. Now, when you bootstrap, you use your personal savings and resources or debt capital to start your business. And when you grow, you have to, you don't have a lot of money. You may not have a lot of money to reinvest. It's all your money all the time. It's like you're not really potentially pulling a profit just yet. Now, we could talk about that as well, that you should pay yourself no matter what, profit first methodology, but many people don't, right? Second drawback of bootstrapping is slow growth. Because you don't have much money to reinvest in research and development and hiring more people, it's harder to grow fast. It's harder to grow quickly, okay? So there's that. It's going to just take a lot longer to get to any potential scale. And number three, it's a much higher personal risk issue. 90% of most startups fail, as the statistics puts out there. It's a stat that we need to have consideration of before we even start the business. So when you bootstrap, that means you have a 90% chance of losing all the money you put in. But if you have other people's money, you may lose it, but it's not yours, right? So it's a drawback that you are potentially going to lose all your own money. And not only that, but there's also that sunken cost, not a mindset, but I'm not sure what the right word is here, but how long before you pull the plug? If do you give yourself, what's the runway? Is it 1 year? Is it 24 months, 36 months? It's hard to say. You keep pushing and pushing and pushing because you don't want to fail, but sometimes you need to pull the plug faster than you think. So those are the pros and cons of bootstrapping. Now here's the benefits and the pros and cons of VC funding. Number one, faster growth. Now, venture capital, their main objective, those investors want to grow a company as fast as possible so they can get their investment back in a very short amount of time. Now, everyone's timeline and horizon is different. It could be 2 years, it could be 10 years, but you have a lot more money to grow faster. Okay. Second thing, a benefit here on VC funding would be extra credibility, meaning that every time you hear about a company that raised a lot of money from another investment, people trust you all of a sudden. It's like you have, that credibility of like, oh, well, if so-and-so's capital is going to, invest in my company, other companies want to invest in my company. So it gives you credibility. Okay. And then the product and features could grow and scale that much faster. Okay. And the third benefit of VC funding really is the expert help, because money is only one of the resources that is provided by the venture capitals and by these firms. Another one that's really important is the help that they can provide. They are much bigger. They have board of directors. They have information and knowledge and connections, so they can help you grow as well. So those are three of the benefits. Here are, what do I have? Two drawbacks. Loss of control and misunderstandings. And these are really important. So like I said earlier, from the moment you give up equity of your company, in exchange for money, you lose that control that you had as your own owner. Major decisions will very possibly require consulting with the VC firm. Like if you're going to grow by how many more people do you need? More developers, more engineers, more servers? Like what does that look like from a organizational standpoint, right? And then of course, misunderstandings. Now you want to have strong relationships with people who invest in your company or in your idea, and your product, and your service. But misunderstandings occur, even, in a small company that is bootstrapped, even if it's your partner, your spouse, whatever it may be. You need to avoid that. And that's a drawback. Having a misunderstanding and having companies that just kind of implode, if you will, has been a thing. We've seen that, internally on big companies and small companies. So a balance between those things is hard to maintain. And that's a drawback of having venture capital. Okay. And that kind of financial infusion of cash can change things right off the way. So with all that said, which way to go? It's a hard choice. There, of course, there are other choices out there. There's a credit card funding method when people just put everything on a credit card and hope for the best, zero interest, and play that game. There's friends and family. There's the SBA loan aspect. Okay, no perfect answer, really. It's just some food for thought. I'm thinking out loud here. As far as my latest idea, I like the idea of a group of investors because it's not my money. I've always self-funded all of my ideas, and it's kind of getting tiring and expensive. I've not hit anything 100% out of the park. I've done well off and on over the years, but I don't know if I want 20 bosses, quote unquote bosses, air quotes, versus like an SBA loan. So I'm torn. I'm curious, any of you have experience with taking outside capital? I would love to hear how that went, what that exit strategy looked like. I will say this, the next thing I build, I definitely have 100% intention to sell. I want to have an exit strategy in place in a timeline horizon. Like if it doesn't happen by this timeline, like let's say 3 years, I will sell it or shut it down. I mean, I'll shut it down. If I don't sell it, if I can't exit, I want out. I've learned that my mental health and stuff, my mindset needs to be able to shift in about 3 years, 3 to 5 tops. So anyway, that's just me. Anyway, I'm torn. We'll see what happens. I'll let you know. All right, moving on. Segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This week's tool is it's a website called, I think it's pronounced Replit, R-E-P. Is that right? Replit, a Replit. It's code, create, and learn together. It's a free collaboration in-browser IDE that helps you code in 50 different languages without having to go set up a box to do it. Like, for example, Python. I mean, what are the languages they have here? Python, Node.js, JavaScript, C++, C, C#, HTML. Like, there's like tons of languages. TypeScript, Pygame, Java, PHP CLI. I'm just reading them off the footer here. Anyway, it's a free level and a paid level. I have no connection to them. Looks really cool. Check it out. It's over at replit.com, replit.com. Again, I have no connection to them. Just thought it's kind of a neat little service and tool that could be useful for you all out there. All right, that it this week? That's it. Yes. I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any questions, go ahead, send it in via email, adam@KitchensinkWP.com, or use that SpeakPipe feature, the function of the website. If you want to support the show, you could become a Patreon. I would love that. KitchensinkWP.com/Patreon. If you want to sponsor the show, you can do that too. There's a form on the website. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right? Bye-bye. Hey, you still there? Wanted to mention this earlier, almost forgot. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. If you're thinking about suicide, or worried about a friend or loved one, and or want emotional support for yourself, the Lifeline network is available 24/7 across the United States. 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255.